Hi, I'm Andrew Wasson. Thanks for joining me for my weekly guitar blog. It's February 28th, 2016, and this week we're going to do a lesson on guitar chord picking patterns. This week's question was sent in to us from Neal. He's out in Bend, Oregon, and he wrote in with this question. I don't have a ton of hours into guitar yet, but I have memorized my open position chords. I also own a capo, and I've been using it to change keys along the neck. There are a lot of songs where the pick plays patterns across the strings outlining chords. Could you make a lesson on guitar chord picking patterns? I'd like to start picking through chords like that along with using my capo. From Neal in Bend, Oregon, USA. Well, thanks for writing in, Neal. When we're picking through chords with some unique picking patterns, we have the opportunity for creating some really cool sounding guitar parts. The lines that can be invented are somewhat similar sounding to fingerstyle guitar parts, but the attacks are much brighter due to the pick striking the strings rather than the warmer effect of only using the fingers. And while it might be thought that playing with a flat pick could be somewhat limiting, as you'll soon find out, chord picking patterns can really hold their own when it comes to combine harmony and melody concepts. Well, playing guitar chord picking patterns with a flat pick is not overly difficult skill to get decent at, but it will require some techniques with the pick hand that need to be well developed. So in my first example, I'm going to use just a basic C major chord in the open position. I'm going to also apply a chord picking pattern in and around the C major chord tones. So first, let me just play this example so you know how it sounds. Right? As you can tell, the picking patterns not only employing the notes of the chord, but I've also lifted off that first finger on the second string and I've brought in a B string open there. So it kind of changes it from the basic C major triad to a C major 7. So this is a nice, easy way to enhance the sound of chord picking patterns that you're composing, but it also brings in other notes, which creates a better, more flowing melody and, and a more interesting guitar chord pick pattern overall. In the second measure, I did the same thing, but I did it off of the open D string. I just had that melody in the interior. So I lifted off the tone in the chord, the major third, the E tone, and then I just brought in a D, so open fourth string D. Right? So let me play that riff for you one more time. Now, one of the best things that we have going on when we're using these guitar chord picking patterns is the ability to just transfer a picking pattern over to another chord type. But, when you're first trying this, it's always best to switch over to another chord that operates on the same group of strings as the chord that you started from. Now, in my second example, I'm just going to expand off the open C major chord. I'm going to head over to also including A minor. So it's using the exact same string sets. Just switching to a new shape to cover A minor, and it's a nice color shift too because it's the relative minor chord of C major, and by directly sharing the same string sets as C major, we can just associate the same pattern, basically just directly transfer the pattern that we were using from the C major and now use it on A minor. Tell it's really just the exact same picking pattern that I was using there on the C, and you can even place them against one another and get a really interesting sound that way. So here's the C major and the A minor, C again and A minor. Really cool stuff going on there. Now, another thing that's really cool about picking patterns like this, and you can go a long way with just a couple of chords, is if you don't happen to be functioning well off of that position, you can just grab a capo. And maybe for instance, if I went and clamped the capo down here at 5th fret, what that would do is if I played those same shapes, I'd have a F major chord and a D minor chord, and I can just play the exact same shapes, exact same picking pattern, but now I've moved things over off of more of like an F major sound. So it's really cool, super versatile technique. If you have a capo, you just reposition it along your neck to change to whatever key that you'd like to work in. And you got some really powerful stuff that's fairly straightforward to be able to play. Well, in my next example, I want to experiment with another idea where we can play a guitar chord picking pattern based around a little bit busier set of chord changes, but yet still keep things fairly straightforward. So in this example, I'm going to use the chord change as a D major over to an F major, and we're also going to have E minor in there, sorry. So now what we're going to do is just to get things going with these chords, I want to play through the pattern that I composed around these chords. It goes like this. So up front with that D major chord, all I'm doing with it is I'm using 3 strings only. I'm having the open 4th, and then I've got this A tone on the 2nd fret of 3rd string, and I've just got this other 3rd fret D tone on the 2nd string, and that's it. I am bringing in the open 3rd string G. I've got the A and the A going together like that, so that's going to kind of enhance the sound of that G chord a little bit there. And then we're going to switch up over real simple stuff going on with the F major, just outlining it. And then the E minor, same thing, outlining it. F major is real straightforward, F, A, C, and then the E minor is real straightforward too. It's got the E on the 4th string, 2nd fret, and then it's got open 3rd and open 2nd. All right, so there's the riff. It's covering 3 different chords. Now, the real point I want to make here with this is the pattern changes from the first measure where we're really focused on the D major chord, and it's shifting over to a totally different approach for the F major and the E minor. It's got kind of a little bit more laid back feel there with those couple of 8th notes in the quarter note, and then, again, repeating for the E minor, couple of 8th notes, quarter note. But on the D major chord that we're using, it's really more streamlined. I mean, we're really going 8th notes there solid. So it's a little bit more driving on that one. So remember this kind of stuff, when you're inventing your own patterns. We've been talking about quite a few really interesting ideas. We've already discussed how you can use a capo, clamp it down, change your key centers, adding in notes that maybe perhaps don't belong within the structure of the chord. In that D major, I'm adding in a G open 3rd string. And, it's basically going to be either scale tones or possibly maybe some kind of suspended idea or, possibly an altered tone. It depends. But, the more outside you go and the more, non-diatonic that you choose tones from, it's just going to be a little bit more clashing as you go along. If something's non-diatonic, it's going to clash against a tone that is diatonic, and you're going to wind up with that ugly semitone. It doesn't sound so great. So, it doesn't sound great the way I just did it there, but, the thing is you can't say always or never, because you could be messing around with something in some certain particular style and you play some tone that's really off base, but yet it's going to sound kind of neat. You're going to think, hey man, this sounds cool. So always remember that. Go with your gut and go with what you think sounds good and what you think is cool when you're writing, because usually if it sounds cool, it's probably something cool to use, and you don't have to worry about the theory all the time. Theory's there, to analyze what you just did and make concepts to put them together of what's going on overall with the structure of the piece that you're composing. It's really not there as your be-all and end-all guide tool for understanding, how that you're supposed to be, quote-unquote, supposed to be playing something. So just remember that when you're writing these jams. Now, I still have one more example that's going to combine some other concepts together, so let's take a look at that next. Well, in my last example, I want to combine a number of final thoughts with respect to these guitar chord picking patterns. Mainly, I want to focus on chords with their roots based upon the 6th string. But I also want to demonstrate how linear scale lines can be combined along with the picking patterns. So let's begin with a quick playthrough here of the example that I came up with. This one's running through a G major sound, D major, and also E minor chords. So here's how it sounds. the first thing that you probably notice, that jumps out at you is the linear melody line that appears across the endings of the second measure, where we've got that. And then also through measure 4, in measure 3 we've got this one coming in. And then measure 4. And that's all outlining the sounds of E minor there. So, when you're doing work like that, it's a really cool sound mixed in around the chords, because it's, adding in scale tones that are diatonic to the key. You hear stuff like this in a lot of tunes. One in particular that I think is great to learn for this type of picking approach here is Boston's tune, More Than a Feeling. So definitely check that tune out, learn it, go grab a chart on it, understand how it all operates. It's all flat picked, there's no finger style in that one either. And, you can also experiment with adding in, when you're writing these two, like we were discussing earlier, with the non-diatonic melody tones. If they happen to work, then, maybe that's going to be a cool sound, depending on your style of music. But you just have to be cautious with those ones, since they're out of key and, they have to appear in the right way. But I'll just take things out by playing this last example for you one more time. Well, playing with a flat pick, or what's also sometimes called plectrum style, can be easy for some, and it can also be somewhat awkward for others. I've met a lot of guitarists who really prefer a pick, and then I've also met a ton of players out there who would much rather just play with their fingers. Personally, I'd recommend getting good at playing guitar both ways, but for all those flat pickers out there who just really dig that sound of the outlined chord tones with the pick approach, certainly has a huge opportunity for this type of sound. So try the examples that I've given here, but most importantly, invent a bunch of your own patterns as well. They'll quite likely become a big part of your everyday guitar playing technique. Anyways, that's about all the time that I have for today. As always, thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, and if at all possible, please consider a small donation to help fund the Guitar Lessons project here. Otherwise, have yourself a great week, and I'll catch up with you next time. Bye for now. I'd like to take a moment to mention another guitar video lesson project I've started. It's a unique guitar lesson approach that I'm doing online, and it's not like anything I've done before. Best of all, it's 100% free. I've called this approach Guitar Micro Lessons, and they're a great way to learn a few new licks or riffs or chord shapes each week. Now, these Guitar Micro Lessons are quick and easy to learn from. They're very short, with each lesson running between only 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes in length. They're published to YouTube from Monday to Thursday on my other Guitar Blog Update YouTube channel, and you can either subscribe to that channel to guarantee getting each new episode, or just visit the channel whenever it's convenient for you and check out the new micro lessons in the playlist on the Guitar Blog Update channel's homepage. If you'd like to learn the modes and really get an understanding how they can be used musically to write songs, play a solo, or compose melody lines, then you're in luck. My ebook, Using the Major Scale Modes, is a comprehensive manuscript outlining exactly how modes are used both in harmony and to compose melodic ideas. Over 50 pages of scale patterns, example progressions, and music theory all create one of the most comprehensive methods on the modes available. Using the Major Scale Modes is available for instant download in the View Our Products area at creativeguitarstudio.com.